Now for our JCW contingent. Dom, welcome to the Driving Talk podcast. It's been your sort of second year in JCW, so sort of graduate year for you. And how's it been so far this year?
Yeah, it's been good. It definitely started really well. We kind of came out the blocks strong, especially back here at the start of the year. We got podiums, and it looked like it was going to be a stellar season, but we've hit some rough patches in the middle of the year. So, Knock Hill and then Silverstone just didn't quite go together how we expected, especially Knock Hill with doing an engine in testing and then reversing into a tyre wall in one of the races. It really wasn't a good weekend. So
Less than ideal.
yeah, just that's racing. Sometimes things like that happen, and it's still when you have that momentum behind you and you have a moment like that, it does just kind of take away from that momentum you have in the season. And you think you should just be able to get to the next race weekend and get back to normal, but it's not as easy as it sounds. So we've turned up here, and I think pace is all right. We've we yet to see really qualifying's when you really find out. Everyone's doing different things on tyres. There's quite a end of season. You start to get all the people doing guest rounds, so they turn up with a full allocation of brand new sticky tyres, and you're having to use carryovers and whatnot. So you look at the timesheets and you think, well, yeah, there's a few people up there that I wouldn't expect, but we'll see tomorrow once everyone's on the new stuff. But yeah, I think we're pretty happy we've solved some of the issues we had at the last couple of rounds engine-wise, and setup-wise, I think we're pretty happy. So this should be a good end to the season at least.
And that's purely the aim for you?
What, have a good race weekend? Always.
Well, always, but just to almost get back up there.
Just to kind of, it's to put it to bed in our minds that we finished the season. We go, you know what? We had them bad couple of rounds, but it was extenuating factors. It was external factors. There was things that were out of our control at times, and you know what? We get back to the last round. We get those items fixed and sorted, and then, we're back where we thought we should be. You know what? We are where that is our pace. We are a front runner. And then you can go into the off-season, focused on next year with that in mind. It's difficult when you come off a season. You think, well, we had podiums right at the start of the year, but it seemed to taper off. What we going to do? What was that? Me? Was that the car? Was that, what was it? So it starts to play on your mind, so it's important to try and be able to put that to rest mentally.
Absolutely. But the one thing that no one can argue with is your credentials. I mean, you're a mini champion in what is now the trophy class.
Yeah.
Arguably one of the toughest one-make series on the planet, apart from JCWs and maybe a couple of others around the country. It's not a lot. So surely that's got to count for something.
And I'd hope half the guys helping out on the cars this weekend, Cooper drivers helping the team at JCWs, and I hope it does count for something because our driver coached them on the Cooper round. So, it's a different car, different beast. We're at nearly double the horsepower, sequential box, the driving style, the ferocity of them is just totally different. So, just because you've run really well in one type of car doesn't mean every type of car comes naturally to you. Everyone's got their expertise in the same way you wouldn't expect an F1 driver, apart from maybe Kimi, Bottas, to go and jump in a rally car and all of a sudden, be putting in the fastest lap times or stage times. So, just to say, well, I've won one series, therefore it must come naturally. I think it's something I always go back to, that I can go, you know what? No, I do know how to drive cars, and when it does, but yeah, it's maybe it's more a benefit to the CV where you go, but. When you get your helmet on, you get in the seat of the car and you're out on track. It's not something going through your head going, I have won Coopers, so I'm where you can really push for a championship a championship position and hopefully a win. But yeah, I have a kind of limitation in the amount of testing we can get done. So it means that the seat time I need is normally stretched over 2 seasons before I can have a good run at the championship. I know some of the guys get to jump in the car after 10 test days in winter, and you go, wow, they're really quick all of a sudden. But they've done a lot of running behind closed doors. So yeah, we're a bit limited on our testing. So yeah, third season's our season that we're looking for a championship result. So that's the plan now, but it relies on sponsors and funding, everything else. So I need to have some discussions with certain people over the next couple of weeks and start to get things in place, because it comes down quick. You start talking about what's the plans for next year, thinking it's next April, but realistically you have to start committing to championships, committing to teams in the next couple of, this side of Christmas for sure. And then you've got to get into the new year with test days planned if you're going to get any testing done. So yeah, you can't dilly-dally. We need to kind of commit to something soon. But yeah, that's the plan. JCWs again.
Fantastic. Well, Dom, once again, it's been great to talk to you. Your other half isn't actually floating around here, but I just want to quash a rumour. So you came on to what was the Club Racing UK podcast a few years ago, which I hosted. You met your other half through that, watching that podcast, right? She watched you on the podcast.
So I tweeted about it because I was repping, and then she commented saying, "I'll give this a watch," and then we got talking about my racing through that, and next thing I know, we're meeting up at a bar nearby, and the rest is history, as they say. So
the rest is history. Fantastic.
So thank you for inviting me on that previous podcast.
What can I say?
She'll be worried now, because she'll worry that I'm going to get some sort of mistress now on the side after this one. So sorry, ladies, I'm taken.
Fantastic. Dom, always a pleasure, mate. Thank you.
Right, spot on. Thanks.
Right, and now for arguably one of the stars of JCWs this season, Nelson King. You see he's in this resplendent blue uniform, or for our audio listeners, you'll know him from being, of course, of Laser Tools Racing, which is sort of coming halfway through the season, isn't it?
Yeah, it was a bit of a shock halfway through to randomly get Laser Tools on board, but obviously it was quite a good shock in that respect to now be the Laser Tools car. You
have had a hell of a first year in JCWs, though, haven't you?
Yeah, I think I'm always going to be disappointed with it, because I always want to be winning, but ultimately we have done really well. I think I can't complain too much with 8 podiums to my name and currently sitting 4th in the championship. It's not too bad, but yeah, obviously I'm always disappointed with not winning. I think we had the capability to be with Zelos at this point, but I've made my mistakes. We've had a few gremlins on the car at the start of the year, and it just hasn't gone our way this year, but I think we've had a good first run.
Absolutely. I mean, look, I said the same to Dom. He was Cooper Trophy champion 2021. You were Cooper Trophy champion at an absolute canter last year, and you've come into this fresh off the bat this year and done that well. I think you should be really pleased.
Yeah, of course. I think last year actually made that a bit harder, to be honest, because we won by so much. All of a sudden, that's the expectation, and that's the expectation of myself as well. So coming into this, if I didn't get a win, I was obviously annoyed with myself. So I think it was obviously a good thing coming in as a champion, having that confidence, but at the same time a bit of a hindrance sometimes, because my ego overtook me, and I thought I should win everything, when in reality I am a rookie, and sometimes I've got to sit back and learn and take the hits.
But has it kind of helped you to get your feet back on the ground?
Yeah, definitely. I think ultimately that's what it's about, having a good team behind you. I think I've had the support network when I do come in, I don't have the best of races, which does happen in motorsport. You can't win everything. I then get picked back up and get reminded that you can do it, and then obviously Alex shows me how to do it. The car gets sorted out and the engine gets sorted out and everything runs perfectly. That's what it is. I think motorsport's not a straight line. It's going to be up and down.
Now, the one thing that I've loved about your racing in particular, normally flanked by your brothers and your dad, it is very much a family affair, and I love that, and you've been supported by the family business as well. But having the Laser Tools backing coming on sort of halfway through 2023, what is now 2023, has that been sort of a big weight lifted off your shoulders as well?
Yeah, definitely. I think it's more the confidence that they've actually put in me.
Yeah.
I think having a brand like Laser Tools that have actually won touring car once before is something that's a lot of confidence gets put into you, because obviously I've come out of Cooper's, I'm the sort of new kid on the block in JCW, and all of a sudden someone's come along and gone, we think you're good enough. And that's actually such a big confidence boost myself. And I think that's shown in the last couple of races, because I've had that sort of block to now get podiums consistently, because they've sort of put that into me. And you know, it has been such a privilege to run their logo and have that on board.
And you're kind of going into this final weekend with some spoils to go for, so what's your game plan?
I think the game plan's always the same. I always expect to win, and that's what I'm aiming for. I think I won't be taking as many risks as I would have been, but I'm definitely not going to back off for anyone. I think if anyone wants to get a bit fruity with me, I'll get a bit fruity with them back, and have a bit of a ding-dong. Always is a mini challenge.
Absolutely. Almost learning the touring car tricks of the trade. Is that where you want to end up?
Yeah, of course. I think especially now with laser tools on board, that's where it's sort of looking towards, and hopefully I can make it to that point. And yeah, they race rough and ready, so I might as well get used to it and start doing a bit of dooring, doing a bit of
start getting them elbows out.
Oh yeah, of course. I love it. So that's the good thing about racing tin tops, is it's not like single seaters where you make a bit of wheel contact and go on. It's all for it.
And just one last thing. Obviously, I mentioned your brothers before. Amazing supports for you, haven't they?
Yeah. I think I wouldn't be here today. I wouldn't be the person I am today without my brothers. You know, I think even when it goes back to karting and they stop their karting to then bring me on, they taught me everything I know how to drive. And even to a point of financial backing, that when I started getting into cars, my older brother and my middle brother Levi, they both got on board, and they was like, no, we think you're good enough, we want to keep pushing. And you know, it's now got to the point where their commitment has paid off, and we got a good backing behind us. So you know, I can't thank them enough for everything, really.
Fantastic. Well, Nelson, you had a bit of a mishap today, but going into tomorrow and into Sunday, I wish you all the best, mate, and the end of a fantastic 2023.
Thanks. Hopefully round off in a good way.
No worries.
One of the shining lights, arguably, from the last round at Silverstone of the MINI JCW Championship was this man here, Spencer Stevenson. Someone who is renowned, arguably, for Fiestas and having a long and varied career leading up to it. You're out for your second round, which turns out to be the finale this weekend.
Yeah.
But it's kind of the last 2 weekends are kind of a building block for next year, right?
Yeah. So that's the plan. We're looking at doing them next year. And yeah, I've not had any testing in them. And so yeah, it's all new. I'm still trying to learn the car as I'm racing around. So yeah, it's a bit tricky, but yeah, we're getting there with it now.
So leading up to it, I mean, I know you predominantly from Fiestas. I do a lot of work with the BRSCC live stream, and I know you predominantly from racing 240 Fiestas. So how was that?
Yeah, that was good. So I started off in karting, and then we looked at the Fiestas, which I started off in the ST150 class. Yeah. And then moved up to the ST240s. Did that for about 3 years or so, and then we just looked at the next step, and so thought we'd give these a try.
And how have you found it so far?
Yeah, very good. Loving the sequential gearbox, how you just pull the stick, and then no ABS in them, which I've never done before. So yeah, still trying to get used to it all. But yeah, no, they're mega. Yeah.
So the sequential gear stick is what you really need for the full race driver feel.
Yeah. No ABS, and it's much faster than anything I'm used to. And it's just amazing.
So obviously this is part of a sort of step up through the ranks. Where do you want to end up eventually?
I don't have anything planned, but obviously, everyone would like to be in a British touring car one day. We'll see how we get on and see what we do.
Fantastic, fingers crossed. And hopefully this weekend get that elusive podium that you'd be looking for.
Yeah. Well, I've never done the GP layout before, so I'm still trying to learn that. So I've got 2 sessions to learn that, and then straight into qualifying. Hopefully we'll pick it up pretty quick, and see how we get on.
No worries, Spencer. Good to have a chat with
Thank
you, albeit brief.
I've got to look at the camera.
Do you know what? We've got a proper VIP that's come into the podcast here for one of our driver issues. We've got Dzenis here with us, and I mean, he's a multiple champion, albeit in the Toyo Tyres races. How's it going, Jason?
Yeah, it's all right.
Yeah, you living the dream.
Yeah, living the dream.
What's it like working on these JCWs?
Well, the hard work, the brake.
What breaks on them the most?
Gearboxes.
Yeah.
forever getting the gearboxes out.
Yeah. Now you can say anything you want about anyone else in the team because we'll just put it in later. You got any gossip for us?
Not really.
No gossip. I'll tell you what though, Paul's behind the camera, he's smiling away because he knows what it's like to be in the presence of greatness. So here we are, 2-time Toyo Tyres Saloon Car Champion. Right, so at this point I've received a bit of a bollocking from Paul because I've got to ask some proper questions. So, genuinely, you're one of the mechanics for the team, you've raced for years, you've been champion, but you've got quite a fat little Clio, haven't you?
I have, yeah. A 197 Cup car.
And you've got a supercharger for it?
I will have a supercharger on it.
Right, what's that? Come on, tell us all about it.
Well, I don't know really, it's just, it came up at the right price and I thought I need a bit more power because it does lack it down the straights and stuff, so I want to give it some boost.
Well, I mean,
cheapest way.
And you would have seen one of the previous episodes of the Driving Talk podcast. We had over a 2-hour interview with a former business partner of yours, actually, Mr. Robin Welsh. And you used to race with him back in the day a bit as well, didn't you? Tell us about that 205.
Well, the 205 was an animal. Me and Rob built that from bare shell, and obviously we just decided one day to go race it. So we put a 2-litre 16 valve in it.
Like you do?
Like you do, yeah. Weighs 700 kilos. And we put it on pole for our first ever race.
Not bad effort.
Well, for me anyway. Rob's obviously done loads. And we stuck it on pole.
Yeah, I mean, again, and if you go back into the archives of the Driving Talk podcast, again, it's a great listen, and he goes into many depths of what he used to do before with productions and compacts and everything. But so obviously the 205s and everything. So in racing terms, what sort of drives you? What sort of gets your juices flowing?
I don't know, just good close racing, I would say, really. As long as you're battling with someone, I think if you're on your own, it gets boring. But obviously, battling with someone, I think that's probably your best races that you probably would have.
Absolutely. And working with Graves Motorsport, working on these kind of cars as well, and seeing the engineering up close.
Yeah.
I suppose, does that really kind of drive you and get the juices flowing too?
Yeah, it does really, especially when Nelson's where he's performing at the moment. It's he's up there every time, so fingers crossed we have a good weekend this weekend and then get some results.
Fantastic, fingers crossed. Well, I'll let you get back to it, Jason.
Yeah, love it, mate.
Good to have an albeit brief chat, but yes, again, I'll reiterate again, we're in the presence of greatness. 2-time champion. Now, we have to, this part of the Driving Talk podcast really is quite a special one because we're sitting down with really the main man himself, Mr. Karl Graves. I kind of want to, we almost need to hark back, and we talk about previous episodes, and we had a 2-hour podcast with Robin Welsh, and he talked about the glory days of Production BMW, and really that's where Graves started in circuit racing for you guys, wasn't it?
I wouldn't say the glory days. We come in as the sun started to set on it. So probably the last couple of years where there was large grids, and to me glory days is where you've got 30, 36 cars all out there, and you, as usual, you always get some at the front that are a bit faster, some in the middle and some at the back. And it didn't matter where you're on the grid, everyone come out with a big smile on the face. I'd actually say the guys in the middle and toward the end probably enjoyed it more than the guys at the pointy end going for a championship because there was no pressure. But you come out and you had fun and you sort of raced against the guys. And as a family, we all done that. So myself and my brother, who I'm going to say won the championship in 2018.
Yeah.
I definitely sunset on those ones. He's going to love me for saying that.
Yeah.
But if I didn't take the mickey out of him, he'd be worried. My dad. So yeah, we started that 2014, I think it was. My brother might have even been a little bit earlier than that. Racing it in 2015 and 16 myself, with my dad as well, who done one season because he wanted to come out and race with his sons. Probably thought it was going to give us a bit more competition than he did. And so yeah, we raced with my dad 2015-16. At the end of that season, one of my friends turned around and said he fancied going racing. Always wanted to. So we ended up running him as our first customer. And then from there it sort of snowballed into, at one point I think we were running 10 or 11 of the BMW E30 cars, which we all have a great fondness for. But yeah, no longer racing, unfortunately.
No longer racing. I think, unfortunately, I said this in the chat I had with Robin. Unfortunately, I think the cars just got too expensive to get hold of. Parts were getting a little bit more tricky, and it's just one of those natural things where, unfortunately, they've turned into a bit of a classic now. So
yeah, absolutely, it's a classic, and as it goes, that car in itself has got a class in future classics in the CSCC. So there's 3 or 4 of them that are regularly doing it. I know David Smitheram, who's there, is trying to get more into that, and they're a great car to go and do that and have fun. I think it suits the driver that wants to go and do it. That it's necessarily all about hard racing.
Yeah, absolutely. So going from that, where Graves starts, I mean, if you want to go from the beginning to the end, where we're sat here now in a bloody great big transporter, state-of-the-art facilities, and you're running Porsches and MINI JCWs, but really I think the MINI side of things started with Alex Neville.
Yeah, the MINI started with Alex Neville. We were running Production BMW, we were running things in Toyo's racing saloons. We'd dabbled with the KAs and helping MSV with getting a few of those on the grid and running those. And we were looking for something else to do. We wanted to go make more of a business out of it rather than being a hobby business. We wanted to make it a full-time proper business for myself and David. And that came out of a conversation with Stuart Garland and then via Alex Neville as it does. And we sort of agreed to run Alex Neville in 2020, pre-COVID, so no one knew what was going to happen.
And then the world ended.
The world ended all of a sudden, so everything that we were planning up to do with him, we managed to speak through Alex, through another MS UK academy guy, Alfie Glennie, that was looking to do minis, so we ended up getting Alfie on, and we introduced Bradley Graves to motorsport from his real sort of first time in a car racing. So that was our little team for the year one that we were ready for 2020. And yeah, we sort of got to March and ready to start going racing, and it all got put on hold.
So you obviously ran the Cooper side of things, and you got some great results. Alex was certainly up at the sharp end. Alfie was. Bradley was learning. How did the JCW things? Well, more importantly, when did our now co-host, Mr. Max Coates, come into it?
So that's the interesting one. We were looking to get into JCW. Now I've got to check. It was 2021. And we were looking around for drivers. Bradley had already said internally that he wanted to move up, and at the time, so we were looking around, and I must have heard Max on 2 or 3 different podcasts saying that wants to go driving next year but hasn't got a team, needed something to do, needed all the sort of stars to align, and as it happens that year, I sort of reached out to him. He popped down to Colchester, and we're now into a third year, but obviously third year of running with Max and out in the Porsches this time, and not in the Minis. So he's moved over. But that all come off of sort of me listening, us having a conversation, and making sure that we could get a deal that suited him and suited us at the same time. I think Max's probably first impressions of us was when he turned up to Croft for the previous year. We've turned up, he's seen Coopers, and we've turned up in the lorry we're sitting in now, and he's wondered who the hell we were. So I think he was probably intrigued when we both sort of reached out, and it made sense to have a chat.
The stars aligned, as it were.
They did indeed, and it's been very good since.
So looking back between sort of back in the Production BMW days and club racing to now, how much have you learned in terms of getting the infrastructure in place, sort of getting all of the building blocks in place to be able to run a setup like this?
So it probably looks easier than it actually is, and hopefully that's the way we want to do it, because you want your customers to look like everything is running smooth, but it's not an easy job to do. I can remember when we first started this and we looked at it and we were going, okay, we run 8, 9, 10 BMWs, and that was really busy. We look at it now and we can run 2 JCWs in a weekend, and it is far more complicated, far more detail, far busier with 2 cars. And funny enough, we still run one of the E30s in the CSCC, and you go back and you run one car in that, and you're almost twiddling your thumbs all day long because you've not got as much to do.
It's a bit of a holiday.
Yeah, it is. Just go out and we go enjoy it. You've met Les. You've spoken to Les.
Absolutely, yeah.
And no, it's all of a sudden it's an easy thing. You're like, well, how the hell did we used to think this was hard to do? But as you move on, you progress. You put the infrastructure around you and make sure you've got the right team around you. Probably is the hardest thing that you can do is getting the right team.
So it's all about the team.
Yeah, it's about the team around us. It's not just the drivers. Obviously, let's take the JCWs for example. Each car has a number 1 mechanic, which is responsible for making sure that car's out on circuit. They have a number 2 to support them because the amount of work that we need to get through on the cars, just to make sure everything is tin-top, actually tip-top, to ready to go for the drivers on there. And then in the background, we've got driver coaches, we've got a race engineer that looks after the cars, and tyre technicians. So overall, to get this weekend, we've got 3 cars out, direct staff without any sort of lorry drivers or team management like myself or Dave. We've got 10 members of staff for 3 cars, and that goes up every time you're looking at it. You can get away with having 1 driver coach for like 2 or 3 drivers, but if we went to 4 or 5 drivers, we'd need to have a separate driver coach because the amount of work they want to get to. Sometimes the drivers will come in after a session.
So you then moved from Minis to Porsches this year. Hell of a step.
We have. So there was rumours going around the paddock last year that the Cayman class was going to be on soccer full time for this year. We tried to speak to Porsche, but Porsche being Porsche, they try and keep everything close to themselves, and they don't want to announce anything until they can. I totally get it. So as soon as it was sort of announced, and that was towards the end of last year, October's time last year, there was the rumours on it because they'd been on there as a guest for 3 rounds, and they've now come on to 6 rounds this year.
Yeah.
It was something we looked at and we went, okay, we need to look at that as a possibility into getting out of not just doing the minis, because the minis are fantastic, but we've got drivers that want to go down GT route. So it's great coming in at a Cooper level to learn racecraft, to learn the circuits, but they don't always want to go straight into a JCW and then progress onto touring cars. Some of them want to make a career out of it, and they want to go down the GT route and then try and go into sort of British GT and potentially go into a professional career as a gold driver where they're getting paid to go and race these fabulous cars. So we looked at that as a Porsche. It come together that Max was looking to do something. He had a bit of a bad end towards MINI Challenge last year with reliability issues. Just one of those things. More than anything specific anyone could have done around it. It just was. So we spoke to him about, did he fancy doing the Caymans? Ethan obviously has come on board from last year. He was doing the minis with another team. We spoke to Ethan and Max. They live literally 10-15 minutes away from each other, and it made sense that we could try and get a team together. So we got that sorted, and we've gone Porsche racing.
So with obviously Max went to Caymans, but for a while it was kind of touted that potentially Graves and Max Coates were going to move into British touring cars.
Yep.
What kind of happened there?
So it was a lot closer than probably people would know. We tried to keep under. We'd got NDAs, and we were close to working with a team to bring 2 cars to circuit this year with an existing driver and Max. The biggest thing is with touring cars, you can't do it out of your own budget unless you are extremely wealthy. So you're reliant on sponsorship.
Yeah.
And the sponsor that we'd got lined up was, towards the end of the year, was a little bit questionable because they had a budget that was there that depended on the country not being in recession. And we all know where the country was at the end of last year, and it was on the brink. So we were never going to do it unless we'd got the sponsorship in place, because you're just asking for trouble.
Thank you, Liz Truss. Certainly ruined a lot of racers' budgets for this year, that's for sure. And
you can actually tell that in the paddock. There's people that would normally be here, and actually, if you spoke to them 6 months ago, knowing this was going to happen, they'd probably be on the circuit. But at the time, people were a bit cautious, and rightfully so. We now come into the end of another year. Things aren't in the way they were, and I would imagine there'll be more people with more budgets next year. It seems that sponsorship is not specific to the economy in the way that it is, because there's people out there that have got it, and some companies see it as a good way of marketing. And it's just,
and of course it's a tax write-off, isn't it, technically?
I wouldn't know about that.
Very coy with your words. So what would the future be looking like for Graves Motorsport? What can you tell us?
So for 2024, we're looking to do the mixed platform again. So we're looking to keep with Porsche. We're looking to expand the Cayman team.
Yep. So you're potentially European GT4s.
Yeah, that's the road. I'm not saying that's where we're definitely going, but the natural progression is we go down the GT4 route. We look at the Carrera Cup, and then the next step is, do you look at British GT, which is oversubscribed. I think is possibly expensive compared to, for a similar budget, you can go and do the European GT4 series. So there's so many options out there when you open up GT. With the tin tops in the UK, you can go from JCW, and your next progression is from a a reasonable budget to an extortionate budget, you're looking 100 grand to 500 grand jump, and that's to be competitive. So from that fivefold jump where you're not in GT4s, you're looking at probably a double jump or 1.5 times jump in budget. So it's more achievable for drivers and sponsors to do.
Fantastic. Well, the future's certainly looking bright for Graves Motorsport, that's for sure.
Hopefully it is, and we've got the drivers there that are producing it on the circuit and the team around us to make sure that they continue to do so.
Well, congrats,
Thanks,
Carl.
Rob.
Great to speak
Cheers.
to you. And great to chat to you today. And right, I think it's time to get over to some more drivers.
And after all these episodes, we've spoken to JCW drivers, we've spoken to Cooper drivers, we've even had a chat with Jason Dzenis. You know he's two-time champion, Max.
Who?
Jason Dzenis. He's two-time Toyo Tyres racing Saloons champion.
And now he's fixing Nelson King's radiator.
Absolutely.
What
what
downturn from form, eh?
Exactly. So, two co-hosts. So, Paul
Legend.
Harvey's obviously behind the camera for our video watchers, and for our listeners, I'm stood with Max Coates out front of a rather resplendent Porsche Cayman after a day of testing and free practicing and tweaking and data But
so on.
to be honest,
Lunch.
a bit of lunch as well. Bit of lunch.
Bit of lunch for the boys.
But I mean, obviously, myself and Paul have been doing podcast bits all day. You've been doing the important stuff, haven't you?
Yeah, we've been flying around Brands GP in the Porsche, so it's a really, really cool thing. And actually, back end of that last FP2 run, the tyres were gone, and we were never going to set a lap time. Wasn't really what it was about. And I just thought I could pit, but sod it. I don't know how many more times I'm going to get the chance to come and drive around Brands Hatch in a GP in a Porsche. I'm just going to have a few laps, just enjoying myself, going a bit sideways, pretending I'm overtaking some shadows, just having a bit of a sort of track day, bit of enjoyment driving a car. You know, you've got to take a minute to enjoy it as well as it being a serious thing this weekend. So. Yeah, I really enjoyed my last sort of few laps here.
And myself and Paul spoke about it earlier. You're going for top honours this weekend in your first year in a Cayman. So, albeit there's a bit of pressure on your side, you've got to be immensely proud.
Yeah, I'm not feeling the pressure too much, if I'm honest. I've been in much higher pressure situations coming into final race weekend of the year, mainly in Clio Cup. So this weekend feels pretty chilled, if I'm honest. I've come here with everything to gain and nothing to lose. So. What will be. I'm confident in what I can do, and we'll give it a go. You know, if it comes out and we've won a championship, then bloody brilliant. And if we don't, then we've given it a good go. So, yeah, I'm not feeling the pressure. The pressure's on the other guys who have got everything to lose.
What's been the highlight of your year so far? It's got to have been Croft.
Yeah, I think I'd have said so. Either that or the wet race at Silverstone.
Yeah.
Felt really, really good.
Oh, you were on it then.
Yeah. Yeah, and the number of people who afterwards have sort of come and gone, you'd have won that if there wasn't a safety car or the red flag at the right points. But that's part and parcel of it. And
that's motor racing.
Yeah, but it's nice to sort of have that recognised. Croft was definitely a real high point. I feel like it still could have been better, and I think that's kind of what makes us a racing driver is, you know, you look at a weekend of 2 seconds and a win and go, I could have done better, you know, and I could do this better, So we're always improving, always learning, and that's what coming in racing is all about.
Absolutely. Well, Max, no more podcast stuff. You've got to concentrate on racing a Porsche. So good luck this weekend, dude.
Thanks, mate.